Hi, I'm Alex, and I used to believe my life was picture perfect. I had the kind of marriage most people dream about, or at least I thought I did. My wife, Mia, and I had built a cozy little world together. We spent weekends hunting for treasures at flea markets, made plans for our future, and shared laughter over our quirky differences. But sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us the most. You don't see it coming because you trust them. That's the thing about betrayal. It's always from someone you never imagined would stab you in the back. One night, a casual conversation about infidelity took a strange turn. Something about the way Mia spoke, too defensive, almost justifying it, made my stomach churn. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her words. That was the moment my perfect world cracked. Little did I know, it was just the beginning of an unraveling I could never have predicted. It was a quiet Friday night, and Mia and I were curled up on the couch, watching one of her favorite romantic dramas. We had spent the day at the flea market, a tradition of ours, hunting for vintage ceramic tiles to decorate the dream kitchen we'd been planning for our future home. Life felt simple and sweet, until it didn't. As the movie ended, we started discussing the plot. The story revolved around a married couple grappling with infidelity, and I expected Mia to side with the betrayed husband. Instead, her words left me cold. Sometimes, she said, a mistake doesn't mean someone doesn't love you. People slip up, it's human. It doesn't have to ruin everything. Her tone was casual, but I couldn't ignore how passionately she defended the idea. I glanced at her, trying to gauge her expression, but she avoided my eyes, focusing instead on folding a blanket in her lap. Her laugh was awkward, almost forced, as she tried to shift the conversation. I didn't press her then, but her words replayed in my mind long after she'd gone to bed. Was she just making conversation? Or was there more to it? We had always shared an open, trusting relationship. Our cozy apartment, weekend routines, and plans for a family felt like the foundation of something unshakable. But that night, a seed of doubt was planted, and no matter how much I tried to push it away, it began to grow. The next day, I came home earlier than usual, hoping to surprise Mia with dinner. As soon as I stepped through the door, an acrid, chemical-like smell hit me. I wrinkled my nose, scanning the apartment for the source. It was faint but unmistakable, a mix of burnt paper and something else, maybe fabric. Following the scent, I found myself standing in front of the fireplace. We hadn't used it in months, but the blackened bricks were damp as if they'd been freshly scrubbed. Ash clung to the corners, and the faint smell of smoke lingered in the air. I crouched down and saw tiny scraps of paper mixed in with the soot. My heart pounded as I sifted through the remnants, uncovering fragments of what looked like photographs and handwritten notes. None of it was recognizable. Mia had been thorough. But why? Why go to such lengths to destroy something? An uneasy feeling settled over me. Mia had always been transparent, or so I thought. Was I overreacting? My mind scrambled for explanations. Maybe it was old junk she didn't want to clutter the apartment. Maybe it meant nothing at all. But deep down, I knew better. The smell of burnt paper wasn't the only thing lingering in our home now. Suspicion had settled in, too. For the first time in our marriage, I doubted Mia, and it felt like a betrayal of my own. Trusting her had been easy before, but now, with evidence, or the remains of it, right in front of me, I couldn't ignore the gnawing thought. Was Mia hiding something from me? And if she was, what else didn't I know? The burned evidence had opened a door I couldn't close. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to wait for Mia to hand them to me. The next morning, while Mia was at work, I drove to an electronics store and purchased 3 small, voice-activated recorders. I spent the next hour hiding them in key places: the living room, the kitchen, and our bedroom. I also requested call logs from our phone provider, claiming it was for security reasons. As I combed through the data, a pattern began to emerge. Frequent calls to a number I didn't recognize. The calls were brief, but consistent, often made during her lunch break or right after work. I noted the number and set it aside, determined to find out who it belonged to. That evening, the recorders confirmed my suspicions. As I replayed the day's recordings, I heard Mia's voice, soft but clear, during a phone call. He's starting to suspect, she said, followed by a pause. I'll handle it. Just be patient, okay? I froze, my heart pounding. Who was she talking to? And what exactly did she mean by handle it? My suspicions sharpened when I remembered Liam, her coworker. He'd always seemed too friendly at company parties, often finding excuses to linger near Mia. While I'd brushed it off as harmless office camaraderie before, now it felt sinister. I searched for Liam's name in Mia's diary, which I'd stumbled upon in a drawer months ago. The entries were sparse but telling. Mentions of work dinners and staying late to prep with Liam. I cross-referenced these with her call logs. Sure enough, there were calls to the same number on those dates. The gaps in her timeline grew wider, and my trust in Mia shrank. Who was Liam? Really? And how deep did this go? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I was determined to find out, fueled by suspicion. I decided to confront the only other person who might know the truth. Liam's wife, Sarah. I found her contact information online and hesitated before calling. When I did, her tone was wary but curious. You're Mia's husband? She asked. I confirmed and suggested we meet in person. She agreed. We sat across from each other at a coffee shop, the air thick with tension. Sarah didn't waste time. I know about them, she said bluntly. I've known for weeks. Her words hit me like a punch. She pulled out her phone and slid it across the table, showing me incriminating photos of Mia and Liam entering motels together. I found these on his phone, she explained. And these, she handed me a folder with printed texts and motel receipts, each date lining up with Mia's call logs and diary entries. I clenched my fists, my anger boiling over. How long has this been going on? Months, Sarah said, her voice trembling. At first, I thought it was just a fling, but it's more than that. As the conversation continued, Sarah's heartbreak mirrored my own. I trusted him, she whispered, tears streaking her face. And this is how he repays me? I took a deep breath and shared what I knew. We pieced together the timeline, each revelation more damning than the last. By the end, Sarah's sorrow had turned to fury. I'm not letting them get away with this, she said, her voice steely. They think they're so clever, sneaking around. But I'm going to expose them for who they really are. Her plan was both bold and devastating. She wanted to confront them publicly, ensuring their actions couldn't be hidden. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that level of confrontation, but I couldn't deny the justice in it. Later that night, I replayed Sarah's words in my mind. The evidence she'd given me was undeniable. Mia and Liam had betrayed us both, shattering the lives we'd built with them. The question wasn't if we'd confront them, it was how and when. Suspense hung heavy in the air, and I knew that the reckoning was near. I waited until after dinner to confront Mia. The evidence Sarah had shared sat on the coffee table, carefully arranged in a folder. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. Mia, we need to talk. She glanced up from her phone, her face calm but distant. What's this about? I gestured toward the folder. About us. About trust. About things you've been hiding. Mia froze, her expression flickering between confusion and irritation. What are you talking about? I opened the folder, revealing the motel receipts and printed messages. This. Explain this. Her eyes widened for a split second before narrowing in defense. Where did you get those? Are you spying on me now? I wouldn't have to if you hadn't been lying to me. I shot back, my voice rising. Don't pretend you don't know what this is. You've been meeting Liam at motels. You've been sneaking around behind my back. She stood abruptly, anger flashing across her face. This is ridiculous. Liam and I are just co-workers. You're twisting things to make me look guilty. Co-workers. I laughed bitterly. Co-workers don't meet at motels. Co-workers don't burn evidence in the fireplace. And they definitely don't leave their underwear in each other's pockets. Her face paled and she faltered. What are you talking about? I grabbed a small bag from my pocket and held it up. Inside were the gray-green panties Sarah had given me. Recognize these? Mia's hands clenched into fists. You went through my things? You've been snooping like some kind of psycho? Don't you dare turn this around on me. I shouted, slamming the bag onto the table. I trusted you, Mia. I believed in us. But now all I see are lies. So tell me the truth. For once, her anger gave way to fear, and her voice trembled. Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Liam. But it's not what you think. Complicated. Complicated. I repeated, incredulous. You betrayed me, Mia. You betrayed us. How many others have there been? She hesitated, then muttered, It's none of your business. None of my business? I shouted, my voice cracking. This is my life, Mia. You've destroyed everything we built together. Mia's expression darkened, and she grabbed her purse. You know what? I don't have to stand here and listen to this. I'm done. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed through the empty apartment, leaving me alone with my shattered trust and a million unanswered questions. After Mia left, I felt an overwhelming need for closure. I couldn't let her lies hang in the air. Using the call logs, I tracked her location to a motel on the edge of town. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as I parked a short distance away, heart racing with anticipation and dread. From the shadows, I saw her car and another I recognized, Liam's. My breath caught in my throat as I watched them enter the room together. The sight was like a punch to the gut, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed to think clearly. As I debated my next move, another car pulled up. Sarah stepped out, her face a mask of determination. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what she planned to do, but I knew it wouldn't end well. Sarah marched up to the motel room door and pounded on it. Moments later, Mia opened it, her shocked expression quickly turning to panic. What are you doing here? Mia stammered. Sarah didn't answer. Instead, she shoved past Mia, her voice rising. I know everything, Liam. You think you can sneak around and get away with this? Liam appeared in the doorway, his face pale. Sarah, let's talk about this. Talk? Sarah interrupted, pulling a folder from her bag. Like how you talked to her. Like how you lied to me every night. The confrontation escalated rapidly. Sarah hurled the evidence at Liam, her voice trembling with fury. Mia tried to interject, but Sarah rounded on her. And you're just as guilty. How could you do this? To me, to him, before I could intervene. Sarah's anger boiled over. She grabbed a lamp from the motel's nightstand and hurled it against the wall, the crash punctuating her rage. Liam stepped forward, trying to calm her, but Sarah shoved him away. In the chaos, Mia fled the room, running past me without a glance. I watched her go, unsure whether to chase her or stay and face the storm inside. By the time I entered the room, the damage was done. Sarah stood amidst the wreckage, tears streaming down her face. Liam sat on the bed, head in his hands, a broken man. The reality of their betrayal and its fallout hit me like a wave. As I left the motel that night, I felt a strange sense of closure. The people who had shattered my life were now broken themselves. Revenge hadn't brought me happiness, but it had brought me clarity. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to walk away from the ruins. The events of that night spiraled faster than I could have imagined. The motel room confrontation escalated to the point where the police were called. I stayed in the parking lot, watching as flashing blue and red lights illuminated the scene. Sarah was escorted out first, her face a storm of emotions. Anger, heartbreak, and a hint of satisfaction. Liam and Mia followed. Their heads hung low as officers questioned them. The chaos didn't end there. The next morning, news of the incident broke on local media outlets. Scandalous affair leads to motel meltdown. The headlines blared, accompanied by blurry photos of the scene. My phone buzzed with messages from coworkers and acquaintances, all wanting to know the story behind the gossip. I ignored them all, retreating into the quiet of my apartment, now feeling emptier than ever. As the days passed, the weight of everything began to sink in. Mia had moved out without a word, leaving behind only a few personal items and countless unanswered questions. I spent hours replaying the events in my head, wondering where things had gone so wrong. How had I missed the signs? How had someone I trusted so deeply managed to hide such a betrayal? Betrayal is a strange thing. It blindsides you, making you question every memory, every shared laugh, every moment that once felt genuine. I'd thought we were building a life together, but Mia had been tearing it apart behind my back. The grief came in waves, interspersed with anger and, surprisingly, moments of relief. Relief that I knew the truth. Relief that I wasn't wasting more years of my life on someone who didn't value me. And yet, uncertainty lingered. Where did I go from here? Could I ever trust someone again? In time, I began to rebuild. I threw myself into work, hobbies, and reconnecting with friends. Slowly, the apartment that once felt like a prison of memories became a space I could call my own again. The wounds were still there, but they no longer consumed me. To anyone watching this story, I leave you with this. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. I spent years convincing myself that Mia and I were perfect, that our love was unshakable. But love isn't about perfection. It's about honesty and respect. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have confronted them? Walked away? Share your thoughts below. I'm curious to hear how others would handle a betrayal like this. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes moving on is the best revenge.